Welcome to The Fix. Sit down with copywriting experts Nick O'Connor and Glenn Fisher as they review, discuss, and improve real-world copy sent in by you. This is The Fix.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Fix. As I speak to you, it's the 4th of July, which has been a nice break for once, working while Americans are not working. I must say, we don't do anything for 4th of July in our house. Glenn has bleached his hair, which I think is a bit of a strange move to celebrate the independence of a country that you don't live in. But whatever, Glenn, whatever political statement you want to make is absolutely...
Well, it's inspired by Billy Joe Armstrong and Matt Sharp, both fine, upstanding American men. I was thinking that this morning. So in my own way, it's a little nod to the independence of that fine country that I'm currently reading about the terrible things that CIA do there. But
it's not a nod. It's not a nod that I'm necessarily sure they will have wanted or expected. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It's all about...
They're getting it. They're getting it whether they want it or not.
Right. We're going to carry on with the copywriting challenges. So this is the second episode we've done on these since we seemed to strike a nerve with some of what we talked about last time. So, Glenn, throw me a challenge and we'll see what we can do. Remember, these challenges were all submitted by you or copywriters like you from the Fix audience. So these are all real challenges that copywriters out there are facing. We're going to attempt to solve them if we can.
Okay. So here is the first one. And it's this little strange one. It's not a world that you're particularly in, Nick. I've got some more experience in it, but let's see what our natural thoughts are. Here is my biggest challenge at the moment. Ghosting from agencies. Simple. I decided the best route for me client-wise was to partner up with agencies. So I've been on an agency outreach spree, sending emails to all those I feel connected to. None of the huge ones like Havas and Ogilvy, but medium-sized, smaller ones. The thing that's getting me down is the lack of acknowledgement. I understand that agencies are busy and emails can slip through the net. I used to work agency side, but it's disheartening when you don't even get a thanks but no thanks response. The other obstacle, ghosting from agencies you're already in conversation with. They mention a project, then evaporate for 2 weeks like a ghost. I've added the like a ghost in my brackets. Do you have any advice? How can I stand out to agencies and stay front of mind for them?
Okay, so there's a couple of things that I would say. You're right, this isn't something I've got tons of experience of, but I have been in a position where people used to apply for jobs often. So I've been on the other, so it wasn't an agency, it was a publishing business, but I've been on the other side of the fence. So I've got a couple of points that I make there. However, the first point I make and the overriding point I make is try not to take rejection personally. Actually, that's not even necessarily rejection, just being ghosted, if you want to use the term, or ignored, or slipping, just being missed. Because we're copywriters. The daily experience of being a copywriter is rejection. In a direct response world where we can measure things, if we can get 2% of our audience to respond to us and 98% to say no, we'll do well. Those numbers scale, yada, 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 yada. I would imagine the fraction of your audience that actually responds to your advertising above the line is even smaller. They don't really track those things, probably because they don't want to know that. So just as we wouldn't necessarily take each rejection from our potential client, via our copy personally, we try not to. We remember that that's part of the job. We have to try and see this, see it the same way when we're pitching for work, which is people, try and give people the benefit of the doubt. They're busy. They've got demands on their time with all of the same challenges that we know we face when we're writing copy. They want to put the kettle on. The kids need something. They've got to take the washing in off the line. They're busy. They're going out. They're doing this. They're tired, whatever. All those things that compete with your message compete with your message when you're trying to pitch for work too. So just remember that, and think of all the times that you forget to respond to your mum or your friend or whatever, and you think, oh, Christ, I'm round to that. Just try and remember that. So that's the first thing, because it's easy to kind of take it personally. Then the second part would be, how do you actually engage people differently? And I suppose we could talk about that in two ways, Glenn, right? Because there's people who haven't heard from you yet. So how do you get them interested? And then how do you manage the relationship once somebody has shown interest but then disappear off? I think those are two slightly different challenges. One is an attention grabbing exercise, and one is a where you already grab their attention, so it's a closing exercise, I guess.
Yeah, I think maybe keep the closing for the second part. I think let's focus on how do you get the attention of agencies. Sorry, my Pablo is insisting on sitting here. Go away then.
Excellent. There's your screenshot. There's your screenshot.
There you go.
Thumbnail. That's sorted.
Probably left to look after the dog. He's gone straight to his bed now. He just wanted. He was hoping for a cuddle, but I'm busy. Anyway, in a minute, Ruth will walk in and do the same thing.
Between the hair and the dog, I think we'll break the internet there.
I mean, that's it. I'm going to put a glass of wine on my bum and then we'll sort it. So what I was thinking though is, how do you get the attention of people when it comes to an agency? I think one of the things I just want to get off my head, because it's there, so I need to say it. But I spoke to James Cross, who was the head of creative for BBC Creative, and now he runs his own agency with his creative partner Tim, called Meanwhile. It's like a big, well-to-do agency and all this kind of stuff. And that video, you can get it if you sign up for the Fix Accelerator. It's not a plug, it's just that's where it is. But he spoke a bit about this as that person who is receiving those emails from people about how he's getting sent books, that is called in that kind of world, where you send your portfolio and work that you've done. And he was saying, he reiterated exactly what you've just said, because it is the same for any employer. I've been there when I've kind of got stuff from people. It's not that I don't like it or I'm not interested. It's just that I'm really effing busy and I can't look at it. But if good stuff stands out, I remember him saying, it goes on his list. He does notice, good stuff will rise to the top if you're doing the work and if you're being polite, especially if you're not bothering people. I remember that's being a big thing, not following up and being there. But one of my tips, I guess you could say, and it's a little bit ropey, maybe you'll be able to put some kind of meat on it, Nick, but is you don't just go to people with your agenda of your aim is for you to get that job. The mentality when you're going to these people, you need to find out, what do they want? What are they actually looking for? What problems do they have as an agency, as a, you need to kind of almost, I think, find your way. What are you, you need to be the solution to a problem they have. You can't go and just go, hi there, my problem is that I need to be employed as a copywriter. Can you provide that solution? You need to go as, I'm a solution and I need to find what problem you've got and kind of just get into that kind of little nook a little bit. And I think it just makes a little bit of a difference than just going out to get work. If you're just going out to get work, no one wants to be in that mood, in that room kind of thing. It needs to be a different, you need to kind of give someone a reason to get back to you, or you could look at it, you need to give them a reason that they can't not get back to you. What is that? What is that reason? And think about it in those terms.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to speak generally now rather than to the person that sent that question in, because I don't know how they're going about their outreach.
Yeah, we don't know that, which should be noted. But
yeah.
So email us, by the way, if that person's watching, get in contact. You've got the email, and we'll dig down on it.
So it's easy for, and I wonder if copywriters have this a bit more than other professions, to be slightly self-indulgent in the way you pitch. It all becomes all about you, the writer. And it's like, on two levels, that doesn't work. One, that doesn't work. Like, we know that when we're writing copy, we need to write to our audience, not about ourselves, to them. So on two levels, it's like, well, that won't work. And also, what are you telling me about your copywriting skills? That you're very, very inward looking. I do this, I do that. I've had great success doing this, or I need help doing that. I'm slightly exaggerating, but not that much. Not that much. A lot of pitches. I mean, by the way, the number of pitches you get from writers is enormous. Most people just send their LinkedIn profile. So it's like a constant barrage of shit, to be honest. I don't know why anyone would ever get a job like that. And then, yeah, it's quite easy to be slightly, oh, I need work. Again, not talking about that person, but talking generally. And so if you're pitching work, if you're looking at your outreach, look at it honestly and say, is this all about me? You know, it's easy to do, but is it? Because if it is, that isn't going to work, probably. It may work in a statistically insignificant way, as in some people may, but probably it's not going to. So what you need to try and do is really think about this basic copywriting advice, but it's really easy to forget when we're talking about ourselves. Again, actually, I did a masterclass for Fix Accelerate members all about writing an about me page, how to describe yourself. And it was one of the best received ones we did because it's so hard to do. And I actually wrote one for myself and I found it hard to do. And I talked everybody through the different decisions that I'd made. And it's not easy at all. So I definitely am not talking from a position of like looking down, but we may as well acknowledge it. It's difficult. Think about who you're writing to. And yeah, try and talk to them about problems that they have and how you might be able to fit in with that, how you might be able to solve that problem. So for instance, I mean, I do bits and bobs of outreach sometimes. They're usually people I already know or friend of a friend or whatever. It's a relatively small industry. But even then, I'd still pitch, like, have you got a project that you need a writer for at the moment? I mean, so I'm in a slightly different position, but I'm still thinking, I know the answer to that question is yes, because people in our industry always have more projects than they have writers. So I know I can just go in there and then I can start to talk about myself a little bit or what I could offer or ideas I might have. But you're still trying to think about it from their point of view. And then sort of implied by that is avoid boilerplate as much as you possibly can. You can smell it a mile off. It doesn't matter how good you think you are at it. I can tell. I can tell. A pitch to me would mention, okay, how would somebody pitch to me? They might mention you, your hair, your dog, Mr. Blobby, weird stuff that I've spoken about online. It wouldn't be that hard to find something, but I would know nobody else is getting a Blobby reference. By the way, Mr. Blobby, if you're American, I'll explain a different time. I'll explain at Fix Fest. But like, that's a thing that I used to talk about. Do you know what I mean? When I ran a company and we talked about it. So there are ways of maybe using some of the same material, but I've got sidetracked by Mr. Blobby now. But you know what I mean? Don't go boilerplate. Think about who you're writing to. Think about the work that they're doing. Think about how you can be a solution to that problem. And if you can't, this is a sort of secondary point. If you're not a solution to a problem yet, if you need a favor, if you're looking for a break, then position yourself like that. Say, ask them to do you a favor. Ask them to give you some advice. Ask them to give you the break that you need, because everybody needed that at some point. Absolutely everybody. Nobody's granted anything in this industry. Somebody has to help them out at some point. So position yourself like that and allow them to be the person that gave that person a break or whatever, and then talk to yourself. So you can pitch it different ways, but you need to think about it from their point of view. It's so easy not to. So easy.
Definitely. You made me think of like all the lines under people's LinkedIn profiles where it goes, I make people smell of money and success, and like I rambunctiously amaze your sales words into blah, 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 blah. And everyone, and there's people I like who have got lines like this, by the way, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, I would not go anywhere near you. And it's that mentality of like, don't try and be like that. Just go, look, I'm really struggling. Like, don't say struggle, but you know what I mean? Like, just be honest and say, I love what you guys are doing with your company, with your agency. I love this advert. Do you know why? Because I've never seen anyone use a font like that or use that turn of phrase or whatever and show your understanding. Like things like that, just go to them rather than being about you. I think there's a fair bit of advice there. So we'll stop that there because there is a slight B to this challenge as well, which we'll just cover quickly. But again, if you're watching this, if that's your particular challenge, email us the specifics and we can go on a more personal thing or what have you. That's not a problem. There's just the part B though, Nick, with regards to if you have got your foot in and then they're not, and they're saying, yeah, well, maybe we've got something going on, and then you don't hear from them. Quick fire tip of how you can deal with that.
Two pieces of advice. One is sometimes the other party is just telling you something about themselves, which is that they're unreliable, that they're not as good as their word, that they will ghost you. And we in some of the work we do, we've encountered people in our industry, Glenn, who have shown themselves to be unreliable in one way or another. And it's a bit easy when there's two of you, but we still have to talk to each other about that and say, do you know what? We're better off without these people.
Yeah.
Because what if they ghost us on payment? What if they mess us around? What if we block out a week to write something and then they don't provide the brief or whatever it might be? So sometimes it's a learning exercise. And that is not to say you go in and attack them, but sometimes people tell you something about themselves. It's like somebody stood you up for a date. Would you go on a second one? Probably not, because you think, well, you're that sort of person. So it could be a learning exercise. The second part is a bit more charitable and a bit more on you. So once you're talking to somebody, you need to see it almost like a marketing funnel. Where are we going from step A to B to C to D? You probably want to think out in your mind, okay, what do I want this to look like? So that you're clear after each interaction with that person, what you want their action to be. And again, principles of marketing, you want them to do one thing. So email exchange, maybe it's a follow-up call. Maybe it's a meeting in person, 15-minute Zoom, whatever. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's, I'll get in touch with you in 2 weeks and we'll talk about this. But just make it clear in your own mind and therefore to them what it is you want them to do so it doesn't just drift. And again, they may not do the thing that you asked them to do, but they might be telling you something about themselves. So don't allow those encounters to drift. You need to try and figure out, okay, what do I want them to do? Do I want them to send me a contract? Do I want them to send me a swipe file, some existing work? Do I want them to give me feedback on my portfolio? Do I want to try and get a Zoom call? Calibrate what you want to do. Don't jump straight to a Zoom call. It's like when you, on LinkedIn, somebody connects with you and says, hey, do you want to hop on a Zoom call for 15 minutes? You think, absolutely not. I don't know who you are, so don't go too quick. Figure out what you want to do. And then go from there. And by the way, this works at sort of a higher level of business too, on a B2B level. So for instance, another enterprise that me and Glenn run, we have this process where we might do a call and then we get people into a studio to do some filming for us. And then we take them for lunch after that filming and then we talk to them about other work that we might be able to do. I mean, it's a little bit more informal than that, but we have a plan from A to B to C to D. So just plan that out so that you're clear what it is you wanted them to do and you can make it clear to them what you want them to do. Then you'll know they either did it or they didn't. And at least then you know it was them and not you.
Good advice. And yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, one thing at a time. Never forget that. The amount of emails that go, oh, can you do this, this and this? None of it's getting done. Take the bins out. You will take the bins out. If you have to take the bins out, clean the bathroom, do this thing, do all that, so you will not do it. Do one thing at a time.
But you can't succeed, can you? And you can't know what success and failure are. If you can't define the parameters of action that are required, how do you measure things,
Here's a slightly quicker one, I think.
Let's see.
No, they're valuable to people. And then we're going to do a quick one, which is probably a long one. This one says, I think what holds me back in my copywriting career at the moment is the lack of constructive feedback from the content manager of the company I work for. I've been a professional copywriter for a little over a year now, and comments like, quote, I don't love this or that, end quote, don't mean anything and don't help me understand what, if anything, is wrong with my copy. That affects my confidence and also my email conversion rates.
Two pieces of advice. One, if you're asking for feedback, ask the person giving the feedback to start every sentence with the words, what if? What if you did X? What if you did Y? Those two words are the cornerstone of any review process. In fact, you can take that, again, right off the sort of value chain. I remember getting feedback on a business plan once and thinking, you should be providing what if feedback. What if you did X instead of Y? If they can't do that, they're probably not the right, not everybody can. They're probably not the right person to be giving you feedback. So you can request, could we do what ifs? At Agora, we say you can't start a sentence unless you start a sentence like that. And the best copywriters are usually able to just say, what if you did? And then, actually, we talked about this in the John Ford episode. Then they just sort of talk copy out. So there's that. Corollary point. If somebody says, I don't love X, that's a polite way of saying they don't like it. They're just trying to be polite, probably. But so ask them to do what if. If that doesn't work, join the Fix Accelerator. I mean, we provide feedback every single week on live calls. So yeah, we're not your content manager, but I mean, what do we charge, Glenn? £10 a month, $12 a month. You can get as many reviews as you like. We do them live every Friday. If you want some additional feedback, that's the place to go. You won't find better feedback out there at anywhere close to that price. So little plug, but that's the way to go about it.
The plug. We love a little plug. Yeah, and I'll just add two elements. Just to cover off what you were saying there as well, Nick. If you keep getting that, I'm just thinking of a very practical situation where you are in the office, it's just you and your manager, and they keep saying, I don't like that, I don't like that. Yes, try and get them to say what if and all that kind of stuff. Or take it on your own back and come see us and we'll do reviews for you and give you that supportive thing so you can kind of go and dazzle them. However, there might be just a practical thing where that person's a bit of a silly person and an idiot. And what I would probably try and do, depending on whether you want to leave your job eventually, because that's what will eventually happen. But before you do that, just go back to what the brief is. If people are coming back saying, I don't like this, it might not be anything to do with you. It's just that they don't know what they want and they don't know what they're telling you to really do. So you're coming back and giving them something they didn't know what was going on. So just take a moment just to check what like the briefs are. What are they asking you to do? And where is that, like, what is missing? It might be they're just a dick and what have you. That's a different problem. But just go back to the brief, because sometimes it might be as simple as they don't know how to tell you what they want you to write.
Suggestion. In that environment, someone that says just you and them in the office, go and review someone else's copy together. So put yourself on the same team a bit. Every week review a third-party piece of copy on the same side, so that you start to understand when they say this, really they meant that, and you can get into that person's mind.
Learn their tells kind of thing.
And also, it's not, the review process is, okay, I don't believe it's adversarial or confrontational, but only because I've been doing it so long. And I would imagine people whose copy I've reviewed have considered me to be adversarial. And so, especially if you say no, it doesn't work or whatever. So it's that dynamic is inherent in our industry. So just flip it, get yourself on the same side of the table sometime, and maybe review a piece of copy you loved and a piece of copy you hated, and just start to talk copy, so that when you bring your own work into play, it might be a slightly different dynamic. And if you've only been doing it a year, just from my experience, when I've been doing it 11 months or whatever, most of the feedback I was getting at that point was just a big red line through the whole page.
Yeah, well, I'd refer to the first part of the answer to the previous challenge, which was, it's not personal. It's not like, well, in a very minor bracketing, someone don't like you and that's a horrible thing and that's the HR issue. But most of the time, it's not personal. As you say, like, all of us, me and Nick swap copy and go, well, that's not right. Like we do every day. It just happens. It's not a personal thing. So just on the confidence, you use the word confidence, especially around that challenge. Do not let it attack your confidence. It's not about your skill set at this point. It's about the feedback process that you're having a problem with.
Language they use it. Right, next question. Well, join the Fix Accelerator if you want to have a slightly different environment around your copy reviews.
We're here for you. We're here for you. Right. This is, I'm going to give us a 7-minute limit. And that is a very thing, probably less than that, really. But we could go on for one here. So we might come back to this because it'll trigger a load of things. But it's a very short one. It says, I'm not one of your readers who wants to be a copywriter, which is an interesting statement in itself. I enjoy, we'll see in a minute. This is where I'm saying you could discuss this for a long time. I enjoy writing for my social posts, mostly LinkedIn. And there's a link to where they are. As much as I enjoy it, my writing is not converting anyone. Right. What can you do to change this? Well, become a copywriter. Maybe you are a copywriter. What is a copywriter? It's someone who needs to convert people to take action and persuade them to do that. But it's not converting. Your stuff that you're doing isn't getting what advice do you have? It's a huge question, but let's just give it a very quick things. And let's get the plug because we've done it each time. John Fix XRA, if you haven't already, because we'll give you loads of ways to do that. But on a more serious point, how can you use that?
3 things this time.
3
So obviously we haven't seen the copy. Okay, so we're going to have to answer this from the top of the mountain rather than the bottom. Generally, I would prefer to do it the other way, actually see the words and not talk about it in the abstract. But there are only 3 things you can change. Okay, so there's 3 things that make a difference. There's list, the people you're sending your copy to or you're exposing your copy to, the copy itself, the words you're using, or your offer. That's it. That's all there is. Okay. Now, it may not be your copy.
It's the 3-legged stool.
Is it?
Yeah. I think that's the 3-legged stool. Legs, but
list, copy, offer. And it's that usually comes up when you're having a pint with some marketers and you're trying to argue about who has the bigger role or impact on the business. And of course, it's the copywriters. No, it's all 3 of those things have to work together. So it may not even, that's the first part of the answer. It may not even be your copy. I found there was distracted the whole, this is clearly a copywriting challenge by a copywriter. So however you define yourself is absolutely fine. But this is a copywriting challenge. So this is just would make me think you're a copywriter. Or you could say, let's keep the copy the same, but for now, is it clear what you're offering people? So what is it you want them to do? Do you want them to sign up to something free, buy something, give you a call, whatever? Is your offer and the associated action you want somebody to take super clear? Work that through. Just from that point of view, what is it I'm offering? Why is it valuable? How do I take advantage? Really simple, prosaic things, because that is really important. Then, okay, list. Who is it going to? Who is my audience? Do they want what I'm selling? Am I solving a problem for them? What keeps them up at night? Yada, 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 yada. Work through those 2 things. And if you do, in general, you either fix the problem, like, it's the offering, it's fine. Or, I'm actually sending all this to the wrong people. People who are seeing my copy aren't people who are going to buy my offer. But if you do those 2 sides, they almost like they sort of ballast the copy. Once you've addressed all of those problems about list and offer, the copy is actually just the quickest route from audience to offer. That makes sense. Here's where my prospect is, and here's what it is I want them to do, what I'm offering. Okay, now the copy just has to get from A to B. So actually it changes the copywriting problem into something more logical sometimes, and more like, okay, I have to go from here to here. And you have to use certain elements of copywriting and emotion, tell an emotional story, things like that. But it kind of narrows your choice architecture down a little bit, because it will go from here to here. So I'd actually start away from the copy on that one if I don't know anything about what the offering is or anything, and ask yourself questions around those things.
It's sensible advice, Nick.
Well, I'd love to see the copy though.
No. That's it. Like, so they send a copy in. Yeah. Send us some copy and we'll have a look at it. That's what we're here to do. But that's really good advice, especially for people thinking about that. It's something we don't hear as much as we used to. I know we used to get toy all the time, but the idea of list, offer, and copy in the modern age of social media, we think we can't do anything about our lists because we think, oh, well, it's LinkedIn, that's where we are, or it's Instagram, or it's this. That's partly how those companies have got you, and now you can't do anything about it because they control the list. So it's not kind of spoken about too much, but that is a serious thing. I'm reminded of my conversation with Iman Ishmael about 3 or 4 episodes ago, I think, and she was saying like she did some work on the list and looked where she was getting love, and she realized that she was putting loads of effort into LinkedIn, but all of her sales and all of her clients were coming through Instagram. So she's like, well, screw that. I'm off over into Instagram and I'll do as much there. That's just
a list.
That's my list. Is the wrong list. I'd still advise to get on an email list so you control the list, but that's just so have a watch of that because that was really interesting. But yeah, offers as well. Like if you're just not giving the right offer, it's like it's something that we look at all the time with everything that we're doing. What people want? What people need is not necessarily the same thing as what they actually think they want, kind of thing. So we might be giving great advice, but people don't want that. They want a sticker book with the faces of copywriters on it. And it's like, okay, fine, you can have that. Then I'll teach you the good stuff, kind of thing. So you have to be thinking about offer as well. It's not always the copy. But in this case, send us some copy. We'll have a look at it anyway.
What you're offering clear is a good place to start. Is what you're offering clear, and why would anyone want that? Just be really cynical. By the way, the reason we don't have this debate very often, I don't know, I've got this in my hand. Sorry. I used to work with somebody who, whenever he would record a webinar, he'd always have a pen in his hand.
I was always wondering if that was strange, but I can't really see anything.
The reason we have to have this conversation is because we have predominantly, yes. We have predominantly copywriters on the show, so we talk about the copy. Now, we do have some episodes coming up. We had Grant Perry on. Now, we talk more about social media, but he is a marketer, and he probably mentioned list, offer, copy. In fact, he did several times. And he was talking about how important the offering is. Coming up this summer, I know we have an episode lined up with Brian York, who is a friend of Grant's, and I think he's the CMO of the Agora International Businesses. He'll be at FixFest, I think. He's also coming on to talk about different career opportunities around the world at different Agora businesses. But I would imagine this is the sort of conversation that we would naturally find ourselves having with him. So we are going to be broadening out who we talk to. But the reason we talk about copy and not list and offer so much is because we're copywriters. So that's our problem. We let other people worry about list.
Bonus Brian York tip. I always remember when I was a young man starting Agora, it was first time that just these simple things that hit in your head, which seem obvious to me now, but I can remember him saying that your website needs to do one thing. And like all of our websites at the time were doing different, like trying to do 3 things, make a sale, do a thing. It just needs to do one thing, collect the name or do a thing or whatever. Again, just power of one. But I always remember Brian being the one to tell me that. It's little things like that change.
Film in with him this month. That episode will be going out in August to celebrate, I suppose is the right word, the fact that there will be a few more tickets to FixFest going on sale in August at some point, we think.
There will be some. We don't know how many, but there will be a handful. If you're not already, I've spoken to many people who are interested. People are signing up for the waiting list. If you go to thefixfest.com and like it's on Shopify, you have to click through the thing and what have. Basically, if you're not signed up for the Fix email, make sure you are, because that's where I'm going to tell people before anybody else. But if you're on that waiting list, I'll make sure you get first dibs because you've gone through the waiting list. So that's on thefixfest.com. But otherwise, just email me, speak to me, and I will direct you to that. But generally, just get on the email list, and we'll tell you.
In August, Glenn, we're going to have a series of episodes with people, experts who are going to be at FixFest. By the way, There's going to be more copywriting experts in the audience of Fix Fest, not even on the stage, in the audience just watching than you would get at most copywriting events. So it's well
Mostly at all copywriting events. I don't think there will be more experts of a high caliber at any other event, and I task those other events to email me to prove otherwise.
Well, that's not going to happen, is it? Right, let's wrap up. Sorry, we've just segued into very, very decadent self-promotion. Thank you very much for joining us for this episode of The Fix. We will be back with more copywriting challenges in a few weeks' time. However, now we need to sign off because Glenn must get to Manchester to run our social event with copywriters up north, which is going to be tomorrow. So it'll be today by the time this goes out. And we're going to be planning Fix Fest and figuring out how on earth we make the whole thing work. But we'll tell you more about that in next week's episode. So, will we?
No, next week will probably be a very strange interview I had with Steve Aylett.
We'll tell you about it at some future point in time to be decided by Glenn and the schedulers, none of whom I'm allowed to speak to. Right. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you again next week. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
If you enjoy The Fix and want to get access to even more good stuff, join the Fix Accelerator today. Get access to special masterclasses from Nick and me, watch expert interviews with industry legends, join live copy feedback sessions every week, and get connected to our very own private copy network. Visit thefixaccelerator.com for more information.